What if I told you that the most terrifying horror movie of all time was actually based on a real case that happened right here in America? In January 1949, a 12-year-old boy in Maryland began experiencing something so disturbing that it would eventually inspire one of cinema's most infamous films. But the true story behind The Exorcist is far more chilling than anything Hollywood could create. The boy we know only as Roland Doe was living an ordinary life until everything changed overnight. It started with violent seizures that seemed to come from nowhere. His small body would convulse uncontrollably while he spoke in voices that didn't sound human. These weren't the familiar tongues of any known language, but guttural sounds that seemed to emerge from somewhere deep and dark. His terrified parents rushed him to every doctor they could find. Hospital after hospital ran test after test, searching desperately for a medical explanation. Brain scans, blood work, neurological examinations, nothing revealed any physical cause for their son's condition. The medical community was baffled. Here was a healthy child whose body and mind had suddenly become a battlefield for forces they couldn't understand or treat. When medicine failed them, the family turned to faith. They contacted Father Raymond Bishop, hoping that what science couldn't explain, perhaps the church could heal. But even this experienced priest found himself unprepared for what he encountered. The phenomena surrounding Roland defied everything he thought he knew about the spiritual world. As the situation escalated, Father Walter Halloran joined the case. What happened next would be meticulously documented in what became known as the Exorcism Diary, a 30-day chronicle of events that challenges everything we think we know about reality. This wasn't just one priest's account, but a detailed record witnessed by multiple people who had no reason to fabricate such extraordinary claims. The witnesses described scenes that seemed impossible. Heavy furniture would suddenly lift off the ground with no one touching it, defying the basic laws of physics. Empty rooms echoed with loud knocking sounds that had no source anyone could identify. But perhaps most disturbing of all was what happened to Roland himself. Those present watched in horror as the boy's body twisted and contorted in ways that human anatomy shouldn't allow. His limbs bent at angles that should have caused permanent damage, yet somehow he remained physically unharmed. It was as if something else was controlling his body, using it in ways that demonstrated strength and flexibility far beyond what a 12-year-old should possess. For 30 days, this battle between the seen and unseen world raged on. The priests performed ritual after ritual following ancient procedures designed to combat forces that most people believe exist only in folklore. The boy's family watched helplessly as their child became the center of a spiritual war they never could have imagined. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. Roland's seizures ceased, the strange voices fell silent, and the supernatural phenomena came to an abrupt end. But here's perhaps the most mysterious part of the entire ordeal. When Roland finally returned to normal, he remembered absolutely nothing about what had happened to him. Imagine waking up after 30 days with no memory of the most traumatic experience of your life. For Roland, it was as if those weeks had been completely erased from his mind. He couldn't recall the seizures, the voices, or the terror that had consumed his family. The only proof that any of it had happened was the detailed diary kept by Father Halloran and the testimony of everyone who had witnessed these impossible events. Years later, author William Peter Blatty learned about Roland's case and became fascinated by the documented evidence. He used these real events as the foundation for his novel The Exorcist, which then became the 1973 film that terrified audiences worldwide. But while Hollywood added dramatic flourishes and fictional elements, the core of the story remained rooted in those 30 days in 1949. Today, Roland Doe has lived a completely normal life. with no memory of the events that made him famous. The Exorcism Diary remains one of the most detailed accounts of alleged supernatural phenomena ever recorded by the Catholic Church. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the case of Roland Doe raises questions about the mysteries that still exist in our world, questions that science hasn't been able to answer. What really happened during those 30 days in 1949? We may never know for certain, but the documented evidence continues to intrigue and terrify people decades later. But if you thought the Exorcism of Roland Doe was the peak of true horror, you haven't yet braved the halls of England's most notorious haunted house. Head over now to watch our previous video to witness phantom carriages, desperate wall-written pleas, and the tragic nun whose spirit refused to rest. The link is on screen and in the description below. Click it, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss this next chapter of terror. Dare to watch?